All right, so what do we got here? 5:01, we'll call the meeting to order 5:01. I appreciate everybody making it here. It doesn't look like we have anybody on the line for public participation, so let's hop into the agenda. My agenda. So let's see. Item 1 called to order. We did that. Meeting minutes from March 23rd. Any comments on the meeting minutes from anybody?
They look good to me.
Okay. The only thing I'd like to add is just the when we're having votes that we just add at the bottom of it that it passed either unanimously or whatever the vote count was. So Claire, if you could maybe add to that the vote thing at the end and of each of the votes. They all passed unanimously at the last meeting, so we should just add that in there. But that's my only comment.
Will do.
Great. I think they look awesome. Thank you. So I'll take a motion to approve the meeting minutes with the changes. Anybody want to take a motion?
To approve the minutes from
Rob,
March
moved by
23rd.
Rob. Do I get a second?
Second.
Right, 3 seconds. And all in favor, aye.
I
Aye.
There you go. Sounds good. Look at that. We're moving and grooving. All right. We don't have any people on there for public participation. So why don't we jump into meeting logistics? So we were trying to kind of figure out what we want to do. I think we've got a lot of good work done to start with. It's kind of what we need for frequency for the work that we have planned. So, we have some grant stuff that we're going to be looking to do, and we'll talk about that a little later in the meeting. But, at this point, we kind of have marching orders, I think, of projects that we're looking at. Staff will need some time to kind of go through that stuff. Do we think like a monthly meeting makes sense? Does that work for everybody, or would we like to do it more frequently? I'm indifferent.
monthly's fine. Yeah.
Monthly's fine? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's
All right.
fine. Yeah.
All right, so I'd say we just plan to do this on a monthly basis then. Is there a specific day or time? I think we've done these Thursdays at 5, which I'm fine with. Do you want to maybe say second Thursday of every month as a game plan?
That sounds good for me.
Can I make a, hey, Rob, what days are ESC? Is it always the second?
It is, yeah,
Thursday?
at 7 p.m.
Can we do maybe the 1st or the 3rd so it's not the same night as ESC?
Sure.
That would be helpful, yeah.
Fine by me.
Is there a preference between the 1st Thursday or the 3rd Thursday for folks?
I think the first Thursday is zoning board too, right? Isn't the zoning? I think they do, and sometimes I jump there. So the 3rd might make more sense for my schedule, but
Does
it's
that
pretty
work for
frequent I
people?
go to DBA, so.
Should be okay.
3rd Thursday.
3rd Thursday it is.
Yeah.
Great.
Folks. All right. So our project prioritization list, big thank you to Rob for spending some time to get us some maps and some stuff and a bunch of other projects to think about, which is awesome. Thanks, Rob. You all were forwarded a copy of the prioritization schedule, or list, I should say. I think it's pretty solid, the list that we've developed. Any other changes or edits to it that anybody wants to see? Otherwise, I suggest we probably start cranking on some of these projects.
So these were in order of like a summary of all the votes. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a summary, and basically what Claire's done is put it into a rank, like essentially a rank.
Yeah.
So the goal would be to try to, if we're looking at funding between 2 projects, I'd try to go with funding a project that's higher up on the list, obviously.
Mhm.
Stuff that's already in the queue or can be lumped into other things, we're going to try to do that. So, any project that's coming down the pipeline that's in these areas, we would look to implement one of the projects that we've identified. So it doesn't necessarily have to fall exactly in order. We'll probably pick off a few of the other ones through the roads work that we do. And then we probably also pick off, if depending on what happens with grants and how they come about, and what we can go after and what we get, that would, if a certain project fits a grant very well, then we would apply for that obviously too. this is kind of like our master summary list, if you want to think of it that way.
Okay.
Anybody have any changes, any thoughts, anything we might have missed?
What's the difference between a rain garden and a bioretention area?
Usually it's just the size. So rain garden
Same.
size to treat smaller amounts of stuff, and usually you try to do it as a rooftop thing because it
Yeah.
doesn't have pollutants in it. So it's almost looking at infiltrating rooftops essentially, right? And then when you get the bioretention area, their size based on impervious area and more of like a watershed. So it's they're designed a little differently.
Yeah.
Ultimately, they're really the same thing. One's just bigger than the other. That's the best way to explain it. Most people use it interchangeably. Anybody have any comments or thoughts? No? Okay.
No, I'm good.
Okay, let's, so why don't we, I guess, do we have that as a vote item, Claire? I can't remember.
It's not a vote item. It was more so as to whether or not we wanted to discuss actions moving forward relating to the list.
Okay. Okay, so we talked about a little bit about that. So I think the goal would be to try to start funding these projects as much as we can. Obviously, the financial climate changes a little bit from when we started these meetings too, because we had a lot more momentum with finances and different things. So it may be challenging to some degree to keep getting the same level of funding that we've been getting. But that being said, we'll shoot for it. So I guess what I would say is the top project number one, we had talked about at least going after that grant. So I mean, I think that's a definite priority for us. Looking at the second one, the parking lot project, I mean, I think that's something that we could look to move as a separate article, including all of the regrading. This also would be a potential project for a grant as well. So we could obviously look at this as a grant for next year too. So I'd be happy to do either one of those if that's what the group wants to do. I mean, I guess we'll have to figure out whether we want to try to use town funds for these things and try to move them at town meeting, or if we'd want to start thinking about these more as a grant opportunities and trying to make the grant happen. So, as I go through the list, I try to fund as much stuff as we can outside of it. If it's something that would hit a grant kind of parameter, we probably should be looking at those as their own projects for grants, as opposed to investing town's money. Some of it already is going to in different projects. So, the tennis ball and pickleball court, at this point, that's somewhat funded, if not 100% funded. And we're looking to roll in that bioretention area. The lower common regrading piece was something new that Rob had brought up, which I think is a really good idea. There's a bunch of stuff that we can do to kind of consolidate some outfalls that's just outside that Main Street project.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
I think that's a good one. The overlay zone, that would be something that we need to bring to a town meeting, whether it's the fall or spring, to essentially create more more stringent requirements within the the watershed for the lake. And I think that I wouldn't expect to get a lot of pushback on that. It depends on to what level we go with. But
Can I ask a question on that one?
push cam, please.
So with the town meeting potentially not being until end of June, do we potentially have time to do that now?
No, because the warrant's already closed for it. So even though it's been pushed off for the timing, they have the way it works is the warrant opens up and close it with all the articles. So we would have already had to have put this as an article to the selectmen, to the council, and we didn't do that obviously yet. So
as a committee, we're still stuck by that time deadline of March 27th it was.
yeah, that doesn't change. Yeah, so there's
That affects boards, public, anybody.
Yeah. It's
Oh, okay. So,
really what it is the boards, we've already talked about it internally with staff. So, they know it's coming, and we've talked to Steve about it, so he knows it's coming. But something that we can give them what I was thinking is that for next steps, if we go through to get public, some public input on some of this stuff,
yeah.
maybe put this up on the website to identify the projects, maybe have me make a presentation at the council to kind of lay out the work that we've talked about and some of the stuff we've come up with, and kind of lay out these projects as stuff that's down the road so they know that it's coming. That was kind of a thought, so that I think it could be in there for the fall for sure. The other thing we have to do is we already have to go for stormwater revisions to our bylaw in year 3 for the permit because they pushed it off a year. So ideally, if we rolled all of that into one package, presenting it with a bunch of articles that are similar, I think we have a better chance of getting approved too.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that would probably be the preferred strategy or the recommended strategy that I'd say, unless somebody has a different opinion or wants to see it a little quicker. I would almost wait till our annual meeting next year and try to plan to move it then. And in the meantime, we can start working on, on a draft of the bylaw and probably a draft of the stormwater stuff too. The stormwater bylaw changes. Just so everything kind of, what I want to make sure is everything ties together. That's the goal. So there's no loopholes anymore.
Yeah. So you're saying the stormwater, the permitting, and potentially moving the watershed, but that watershed map we have.
Yeah. And so the watershed, what we can do is if we look at the zoning, we can talk to the ZBA and talk to them about what we're thinking. So that would be the approach. So we'd have to give, it's a lot about giving information to everybody that's involved, right? So the ZBA is involved in a lot of these things. So isn't the planning board. We create it within the stormwater bylaw and we already have changes to make to that anyway. So we could dovetail all of those into one bylaw change, edit the whole thing, add in the overlay as a requirement for additional treatment, and then go to the ZBA to adopt our requirements for all of the stormwater requirements that we have in the bylaw. That would probably be the tightest and easiest way to go. And then the planning board can adopt it locally. They don't have to go through the town meeting. They can adopt any changes to their rules and regulations at an annual meeting, at a monthly meeting at the planning board. So that's not really as big of a lift. It's just giving them the language we want them to add to the rules and regs. So it's really like a 3-phase process. We have to update our stormwater regs and include this new overlay district. Then we'd have to go to the planning board to get them to adopt it so that they reference the stormwater regulations in their regulations. And then we go to the ZBA, and the ZBA requires any zoning amendments and any changes to the bylaw require town meeting approval. So that would be done in the same meeting that we do the stormwater bylaw stuff. And in all likelihood, Bill Carroll would probably put both of those two he'd probably two of them at the same time frame. So he'd probably take that one of the ZBA, one of the zoning board articles and put it in with the stormwater, so because it's going to affect just that. So it'd be one, a little bit clearer for the public to weigh in.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Does that make sense? Sure.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah.
So let's see. Anything else that we want to chat about the list, or we think we're good with it? Any questions or stuff that we want to talk about? No, we're good.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Let's jump into number 6. Moving and grooving. Communications. So we got Elaine to provide an update on the Wakefield item. Not seeing her. That won't probably.
Elaine just texted me that she's trying to get on, so I'm resending her the information. In the meantime, she did let me know that she had gotten into contact with the Wakefield item and has a reporter, but we can skip her for now if she has any more information.
Okay. Yeah, why don't we jump into, I think you had one on there too, right, Claire?
Yes.
Rob, yeah, and we got Claire. So, Rob, do you want to jump in on Earth Day?
Oh yeah. What was I talking about? Sorry, I forgot. Oh yeah. So we have a letter drafted to send to the schools, or to to all the principals. They were actually talking about our next meeting, the ASC meeting tonight. I have spoken to one of the principals, and they're keen to send something out.
Okay.
So it's whether we want to put something about the lake in there. We've asked them. We're at the elementary schools. We've already been doing the composting and recycling, and that's been going really well. So we wanted to just get some input from them, get some drawings, get some poems, and the high school kids, students that are in liaisons, we're hoping that they'll do some writing.
Okay.
Just if we'd like to put something in about the clean lake or the environment around the lake, or something we can.
Yeah, I mean, is it confusing if there's two different committees that are sending stuff to them, or do we?
Well, it's going to be pretty broad. And the kid, Molly got one yesterday, just asking to do a drawing, and then they're going to pick it up and they're going to go and deliver it to one of the boys for his birthday. They're just doing stuff every day.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds fine to me. I'm good with it.
I think maybe if we say that it's just co-sponsored by two committees and then just call it a day. So there's not multiple information pathways going out there. We just say it's co-sponsored by CLC and ESC.
That's fine with me.
Yeah.
If you guys are going to be meeting on it today anyway, do you want to just bring it up, and as long as they're fine with having us co-sign on, good on my end. So.
Yeah, I'll bring it up tonight. Yeah, I don't. Broad.
Yeah.
So.
And that kind of goes to Bree's idea from last meeting as well.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I think it makes a ton of sense. That's some good stuff.
Put the kids to work.
Yeah, put those kids to work instead of bouncing off the walls. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what mine are doing.
Today.
I don't know if you heard, I don't know if you heard my son to hurry up with my meeting from upstairs. That was good. All right.
All right. The webpage, so Bill and I met with Jen. We've updated the Clean Lake Committee's webpage. So you'll now see that we have an email address. So if people want to contact us, it'll go straight to my email and Bill's email. And then we can disperse information as needed. We have all of our contacts there. So all of our names are now there, in addition to when everyone's respective duration is up. And we also have a couple of other things that we're hoping to put up there in the next couple of weeks or so. I wanted to get a little bit more clarification from you folks regarding information that we put up on the webpage. I know that we had said that we wanted the watershed. I was hoping to also include something, and this is what Bill had mentioned also, something from the previous committee. I know that, Robbie, you have compiled a lot of their information. They have this one PowerPoint presentation from a couple of years ago that I think is fairly useful. It kind of gives the overall update as to what they had done. It is a couple of years old. I wasn't sure, Rob, if you are familiar with anything else that was kind of more comprehensive, like one final report that they had done. I hadn't seen anything in any of the files. I wasn't sure if you knew of anything.
That PowerPoint was just their final presentation on what they'd voted on.
Okay.
Some of the other stuff that I found was just older reports. They were probably 10 years old, 20 years old. There was a lot of old testing.
Yeah.
There was information on when they did the cleanup. The gas and light department did the cleanup. That's all. I think that was probably 8-9 years ago now as well.
Right. So maybe if we bracket it to the old reports, the presentation that was done from the last committee, and you know, any information on the cleanup that the gas and light did. I mean, I think that would be enough of a background. If you're trying to jump in and kind of understand what's going on, that would give you enough, I think.
Okay.
Right.
Perfect.
Okay. All right. So that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. All righty. Going through. All right, well, there's Elaine's piece, so I guess we can bop through that. So item 7, we're talking about our student member. The solicitation information was sent out with your packets or your emails for the meeting. I have no comments on it aside from obviously the change that you highlighted, Claire, for the time to be put in. But it looks good to me. Anybody have any comments on that? Want to see anything change? No.
No.
Okay.
I was thinking, so Bill Connolly had mentioned the possibility of us utilizing multiple students. I thought that, Rob, the way that ESC did it, you solicited for one, but you got many responses. I figured we'd do the same here. And if we get 3 or 4 responses, we could take them all.
Yeah.
If we decided that we want to.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. Oh, there's Elaine. Elaine, do we have you?
You have me,
There you
finally.
go.
Thank you, Claire.
Yeah, of course.
We've been bopping through our schedule here, and actually we were just about to wrap up the section that you were supposed to talk about, so that works out well. So you want to give us an update on your discussions with the Wakefield item?
Well, I called the Wakefield item. I'm still waiting to hear back.
Okay.
So that's about as far as I can go for now.
Okay. All right. So maybe we'll just table that till next meeting.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. That sounds good to me. All
I
right.
had expected to hear from by now, but I haven't yet.
Okay. All right. We will we'll note that.
Okay.
Let's see. So item 8, grant opportunities. So
Hey, Bill, can we get a vote on the student member?
oh yeah, sure. I'll take a motion to add the student member and to advertise the what do you call that thing? I guess the
Student
solicitation.
liaison.
Solicitation.
I'll take a motion.
Motion to add a student member and do the solicitation. Boy, that word's tricky.
Not so easy to say, is it? No.
Seconded.
There you go. All in favor, aye.
I
Aye.
Hi.
Unanimously. All right. Thank you for the reminder on that, Claire. So jumping into grant opportunities, item 8. So I put an email into Mass DP today. Was it Mass DP or whatever group she's from? The MVP group. What is that? Is that the Office of Environmental Affairs? Claire, is that who it is?
Yeah, it's the EA.
All right. So our liaison for that, basically they're telling us that the big project, the MVP action grant, comes out probably by the end of the month is what she's saying, but that may delay a little bit. And they're probably going to give more time to prepare it because of the COVID stuff that's going on. So that's gives us a little bit more time to move forward on it. My big thing is that we do public outreach on that before we apply for the grant. Obviously, $1 million is a lot of dough, but we have to make sure that, that I think the changes that we're talking about moving forward with are going to be supported by the town. So, so like I said earlier, I think probably the best move would be to use our master list of projects that we've developed, and then make a presentation to the council with that. I'd probably roll in the plans that we looked at last time. If anybody has any comments on that or changes or stuff that they want to see changed, let me know. But I would look to probably use those as at least a draft to get the dialogue going, and identify how many spaces we'd be losing in that area. I think it's short number of spaces, Tim, right? Maybe 4 or 5 spaces, if that. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, that sounds about right. Spread out through a couple of areas. It might be 8, I think, maybe at most.
Okay. All right. So we can get that number obviously before we go there, but I was thinking if that makes sense to the group, that I'm happy to take the lead and make a presentation on that. Claire can probably assist me on that, and Tim, if need be. If anybody else wants to help present, you're welcome to it. We can give you a slide or two, but we can develop a PowerPoint to kind of lay out what we've been doing, what we've been talking about, and kind of our master project list, and that we're looking to go after a couple of grants, and here's one of them. If that all makes sense to the group.
So
Yeah, that
when
sounds
would
good.
you expect to go to town council?
Whenever they have, well, the meetings have been sporadic, so I would think I'd like to do it in early May, is what the goal would be.
Okay.
So whatever that first meeting in May is, and try to get something together for that would be the goal. So I'm thinking the map that Rob developed, I can probably enhance with the GIS a little bit, and we can steal that information to start with. Kind of lay out all the projects that are going on around the lake and what we've identified. And hopefully keep it to, 10 minutes or so, and then just maybe give another, have 5 minutes of that be for the Main Street project to give them the idea of what we're talking about.
Great.
So have we prioritized the list? Did everybody send that back? Do we
Yeah,
actually?
so the list that you got sent out is everyone's prioritization. So that took all the votes from everybody, compiled it, and then she ranked them all based on everybody giving their feedback.
Yeah, I'm happy if people think that it'd be useful to have the actual like tallies. I do have a file that has all the numbers, but the PDF that I sent everyone is the official ranking.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So, I mean, so I would say that would be probably the first thing to make sure we move on that grant. The second grant that came up was one from the DEP. That is, what's it called here? So let me pull up give me 1 second, let me pull it up. All right, so this new grant that just came out from the DEP is Water Quality Management Planning Grant. And so looking at the types of things that we could go after, this is a pretty low grant. They do about $200,000 across the state and award probably 10 of them or so. So, I mean, this is somewhere going to be in like the $20,000 to $40,000 range. So not big dollars by any stretch. But they have a bunch of projects that, could include things we do. So water quality assessment being one, development of water-based plans. So that looks at like kind of the watershed. It really is what we've already done, where we've looked at our watershed and looked at projects and things that we could do to, to implement water quality improvements. I think we're already done that. Development of new stormwater utility. I don't think that's something that the town is really interested in right now. I mean, we do fund our drainage, and we're funded enough to really get all of our work done. So I don't really think that that's something we need to move forward with right now at this point. And then there's the green infrastructure and low impact development stuff. So some of the projects that we've identified could potentially be one. But as I looked at it, what I found is really, I think the water quality assessment would be the one that we would have our best approach with, because that's talking about more of the doing, specific testing and that type of things within the actual watershed that we're talking about, which I think makes a little bit more sense, because you're looking at, it's a standalone for us to do, say, 2 rounds of testing, and that's easy to dovetail for the grant. If we try to do like a retrofit project, the problem is that we're only getting $20,000 or $30,000 for a retrofit. So if you look at the parking lot project, that's probably a $300 and something thousand project plus. So we'd be looking at maybe getting 10% of that, and we'd have to come up with another 300,000. Where potentially we could go after an action grant next year and try to fund the whole thing. So that's kind of where I'm leaning. But this would kind of talk about what Bill was bringing up earlier about the testing and funding the testing. I mean, it's something we already have to do, and we already have it budgeted technically. But I mean, if we're going to get free money to do it, it seems somewhat like a no-brainer to me that we could just get, some in-water quality testing in the lake, also all the outfalls around it, and then basically go back to these locations after we implement some of our plans and have a strategic testing as they're all improved, as we do improvements and identify a bunch of testing locations. That's kind of what I was thinking we could approach, if that makes sense to everybody.
So, that sounds pretty good. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
I'd like to see some testing of measuring cyanobacteria in certain locations.
Yeah, they don't necessarily test just for the cyanobacteria. I mean, they look at, it's a whole suite of stuff that they have to test for. So it's similar to the NIPD's permit that we have to do. So we kind of follow that same idea. One of the requirements is that we test we have to test those parameters specifically so that they can demonstrate that there's improvement with the work that's being done.
Would that be like phosphorus, nutrients, and
Phosphorus, nitrogen,
oxygen,
bacteria, but it's not blue-green algae. It's more of a, like fecal coliform and that type of stuff. You know, so you can, it's more indicators to see if the indicators are going away once they install.
Yeah.
So that's what they're trying, that's what they're trying to, so it's really the feds that have given the money to the state for them to implement how they think. So they're trying to demonstrate that this does work, and these approaches work. So this, we would be essentially a test case for some of that. And they've been doing them all over the place. So they do work to some degree. So it will give them some additional data sets to use in their reporting that they do when they go for funding. So it's kind of the trickle down. But I think that makes sense. I mean, if we get 30 grand, that's great. If we get 20, if whatever they pay us, if they pay us something, I think that's,
Yeah, it doesn't hurt. Yeah.
in my mind, it's a benefit, because it allows us to have a little bit more money in the drainage account and, you know, potentially fund another project down the road. So, so are we all in agreement that that's the place we want to go and not try to do a retrofit?
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Right. So why don't we do this? We'll start drafting up stuff for the grant, and what I'll do is plan to have something back to us for our meeting in May, kind of laying out what we're thinking for testing, what the parameters would be, where the in-lake testing would be done, kind of looking at the watershed and all the projects we've identified, and where kind of testing would make sense, you know, in the lake, you know, with those projects that we have planned, to see if we get the improvement. If anybody has some ideas or locations that you think that make a ton of sense, let me know, and I'm happy to add those in as definite spots. So, you know, Rob or Bill, if you guys have some ideas, or Ken, any ideas of where you guys would think, or Bree, if you have something or spot that you know looks pretty bad, you know, we're happy to plan to test there for sure.
Okay.
Let us know where you do your typical NIPTs testing.
The NIPTs have to be done on all the outfalls for the lake. So we're required to do wet weather, dry weather sampling for every outfall that goes to the lake. We have to do the entire town's worth of outfall. So we have about,
What do you measure on those tests?
I'm sorry?
Would you measure nutrients for the
Yep. Yeah,
outfalls to the
there's a
lake?
whole
Yeah.
suite of things that we have to test for. So we have to do this specific suite. The big thing is the bacteria. That's the one that's the tough one, because you have a certain time,
Yeah,
times and all that stuff.
Yeah.
You know all that stuff.
you have
Right?
to keep them frozen. Yeah.
So it just takes, that's the big nugget is the bacteria. Okay. All right, so let's plan to move forward on that then. And what we'll do is we'll bring it back to the committee in May to review our proposal and what we are going after. And I think that gets us to the end of our meeting, unless somebody has something else they want to bring up and chat about. You have us for, you know, for a few.
I have a question.
Sure.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So for our next meeting, when I finally do get a hold of the reporter for the Wakefield Daily Item, do you want him to participate?
I was
Or-
thinking an interview or something like that might make more sense.
Okay.
They're welcome to sit in on the meeting and talk and write about it, but I thought it might be more beneficial if we either give him a piece or something, or if he has questions or she has questions, we could go through it that way. But I'm happy either way.
All right. So will you have, if I were going to suggest he do an interview, I would suggest he do an interview with you, Bill. So do you have a piece that perhaps it's the application for the grant, whatever it is that I could send him that would be the basis of the interview?
Yeah, I mean, we could do something maybe where we talk about all the projects that we've identified, and maybe kind of go into that and give them some little narratives or little brief descriptions of it.
All right.
Because that helps to get it in the paper, and then talk about what we're doing. And
Okay. So when I finally do talk to him, shall I simply give him your contact information? Would you prefer to do that? Is that the way you'd like to handle it?
I'm happy, unless we want to do a little mini subcommittee that sits in with me to chat with the reporter. I mean, I'm good with that too.
That's a great idea.
Okay, so Claire, do you want in? Anybody else want in? Rob? Bree?
Maybe some people that haven't been as involved.
Okay.
All right.
I'm
So
happy to help.
Wherever.
All right. So in that case, do you want to maybe we just have them do it as maybe we just plan a meeting with the reporter, if everybody wants to be involved, and we can talk about some of the stuff that we've done, and kind of just have the. I mean, we don't have a huge committee, so I mean, you know, we can.
Mhm.
You can give them a background. I can give them some information ahead of the time, saying, all right, here's our projects that we've identified, and some maybe a little bit of background information, and then
Okay.
and ask us some questions, and we can all just kind of talk about our experiences and what we've bring to the table, each one of us, and then how we've come up with this list and what we're doing, hopefully for the next couple of years, what we're going to try to get done.
Sounds good. Okay, I will take care of it. I'll do that then.
Okay, let's do that.
All right.
Sounds good. All right. So anything else before we adjourn?
Do we have a date for the next meeting?
We do.
Elaine, yeah. We decided that we are going to be meeting the third Thursday of the month at 5 p.m.
So that'll be the
And it'll be monthly.
that'll be the 21st of May.
So, okay, so be May 21st, did you tell me?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Elaine, when are the Concom meetings? They're the 2nd and the 4th?
Second and fourth Thursdays.
Okay,
Good.
perfect.
Good. So we don't conflict with that. That worked out well.
Yeah.
That's very lucky. I just realized.
Yeah, and, with the ZBA, I didn't even think of that because I go there too. So that's good. All right. Well, it sounds like we're all set. So
For action items, can I ask a question?
Please.
For the webpage, should I wait to upload the project listings to the webpage until we have Rob's map updated with GIS software? Or should I post that now?
I think you can. Why don't we hold on that, and I can get the map.
Okay.
This way, it'll Well, Rob's is more interactive, though, right, Rob?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe we just link that as it is, and just link it up there, and just have it for now.
Okay.
I mean, it does the trick. I think. If that's easier, because it wouldn't be as
I think the map,
hover and click. Like his, you hover and it like blops up a little thing. Ours wouldn't necessarily do that yet. I could get Katie to try it, but yeah, I can. Why don't we maybe use Rob's as a placeholder, and then if we can improve it and make it a little bit better, we would. Because I think
Awesome.
eventually what I'd like to see happening is each one of those is like an interactive map. So as you pop on it, you'd see a plan that comes up. You'd see kind of a little description and detail of what's going to happen. That type of thing. That's what I was hoping.
yeah, that'd be great.
And then
That
kind of-
sounds awesome.
And then keep them in the in the queue and on the website, so that you'd say, all right, well, we got this done in 2020, and we got this thing done, and we got funding on that project, like that type of thing, just to give everybody kind of information on what we've accomplished.
Perfect. All right, let me talk to Jen and see if she has any qualms about us using the Google Doc map.
Okay.
And we'll go from there.
And in the meantime, what I'll do is I'll talk to Katie and get that moving on her end as a project.
Okay.
Hopefully, maybe I can get it done by the next meeting. I mean, she's got a few things on her plate, but some stuff will open up in a few weeks, so she should be able to get that in.
Okay. All right, so then for our action items, we only have a few. So Rob, you're going to talk to ESC about us co-sponsoring the Earth Day write-in, submission, drawing, whatever that might look like for kiddos.
Yes.
We're going to form a subcommittee for the reporter. So Elaine, as soon as you hear, maybe if you want to send an email and we can determine who wants to be on that subcommittee, depending on interest.
Will do.
Perfect. I will talk about updating the webpage with those additional materials. Bill, you're going to talk to Katie about the map for the next meeting, and then engineering is going to work on the DEP grant submission by the next meeting.
Yep. And then we also want to, in the presentation too, don't forget, at the council.
And the town council
Okay.
presentation. Perfect. And that's going to happen before, theoretically, our next meeting. So,
Yeah, I'm hoping the first week in May that if I can get there, that would be ideal.
all right.
So would you let us know when you're going to do the town council presentation? I'd like to watch it.
Sure. That would love it. Sounds good.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, I'll let you know as soon as I hear, and we'll start up the
Okay.
presentation. I may send it around if you guys want to edit it or give me some suggestions. You guys can forward that along. Claire will send it out, and just make sure you respond to Claire only and not to the mass.
Everyone.
Yep. Public meeting law. So Claire will be the point person to get information back. Okay. All right. That sounds good. Well, happy Thursday, everybody.
Happy
Happy
Thursday.
Thursday.
All right. Hopefully everyone stays healthy, and we'll talk. You'll see some emails over the next couple of weeks, and then we'll be chatting in about a month.
Okay,
Sounds good.
Thanks, guys.
Perfect.
bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Bill.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Have a good one. You still drinking your waters over there?
For now.
There you go.